Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching this. This is a special, if I get my microphone set here, this is a special update and hangout. If you're not live in the chat room and you're watching this live, it's my.cbox, C like cat, box.ws/smarter home life. Hello to Michael D and Doug L. Hoping that many of the people, the longtime viewers and the supporters, will be joining. If not, then this is always available as a recorded version. There is going to be a public announcement tomorrow on the channel that will go out actually very, very late tonight, as in tomorrow morning. And as I recorded it yesterday, so I'm sort of sequencing all this, and I'm sure that everyone has seen the drop in content over the past couple months, but especially over the past couple weeks. Let me start just so that I don't get off track and this doesn't wind up being a 9-hour event. I have to take a break from Smarter Home Life. The short story of it is that I was racing to complete some holiday related coverage and Black Friday deals and so forth, and was literally working for half of the day and into the night on Thanksgiving Day. And I've had a number of issues over the past couple months trying to kind of reinvigorate myself with the channel and to try to keep things going. This is not really specifically due to the fact that I'm doing some additional work now for a smart home company. It's also due to the fact that after several years of doing something like Smarter Home Life or any content related activity, what happens is you're always in a race to publish something new. And because I got kind of caught up in the product review cycle, and also because I just don't put out cookie cutter content, and I try to put out things that are creative and interesting, it eventually sort of wore me down. And especially with the stress that started happening over the summer with the move that was planned and then it was pushed off and then it was planned again, and some of that has just been up in the air, along with trying to work for a company that I barely get to just email with. And that's been great, but it's also been stressful in its own right, and trying to plan ultimately for my own move and for what's going on in 2018. Once I got to, I had a planned trip, which was turned into also a business trip, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a little bit, to San Francisco in the Bay Area, right before Thanksgiving. And when I planned it, I had no idea what was going to be going on. It was planned in July for November. And I just thought, hey, I need a vacation, Southwest Fair Sale. It's a good thing. At the end of the day, I came back, and because of the work that was related with Linky, and I should grab the prototype, but anyways, if I didn't show it to you, anyways, because of the work with Linky and because of all the things that were going on, I couldn't even do any prep for all the holiday stuff before leaving for San Francisco, which was on like the 13th or the 11th of November. I wasn't due back until very late that Saturday night. Had to kind of catch up and then go into 3 days to try to produce something fantastic, both written and video format. And I just got to the end of Thanksgiving, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning on Black Friday morning, and I was literally 20% done. And I had already made promises on a video on the Echo Plus review or rant. I took that down temporarily because I just couldn't stand to have promises that were out there saying, I'm going to get this done come hell or high water. And I said, what are you doing to yourself? I just said, this is completely messed up. And I basically kind of had a nervous breakdown, and I just had to walk away. And as many of you know, and as any of you who might know me in my personal life, I'm not, and I said this specifically on the public video that will go out tomorrow, I'm not a quitter. I'm not someone who just says, well, that's it. goodbye. you know, um, I really am not. And so it's taken me some time also, because I didn't, from that date forward, I didn't want to just say, well, I'm just gonna do a quick Patreon thing. I'm gonna do a quick video, and I'm just gonna say, well, thanks, see you later. I had to really kind of put some thought to it, because what I started with Smarter Home Life years ago is not finished, and I hate unfinished projects. And it's the reason I'm saying that I'm taking a break from it and I'm not quitting is because it will come back. The question is when. It's not forever. It's not like years. It will be weeks, if not months. The concept is it will probably be early next year to sometime in Q1 or Q2 before the series comes back in full. Um, the only way, in fact, to really save it is to actually go away from it for a while, create an actual real plan, um, move away from the product reviews, move away from certain types of content that just took way too much time to produce and way too much energy and effort, and to try to create something that's a little more manageable. When I got involved in it, my original goal, and you can go back to video number 1, was to take my knowledge at the time, which has grown significantly over the past couple of years, thanks to everyone being involved, and especially thanks to you guys, because you guys have had a lot of input on it, and you guys have been contributing financially, literally, to keep this thing going. It was to share my knowledge with the world. I had been kind of egged on by friends saying, you have done all this home automation stuff for years. We see it at your homes and it's awesome. And why don't you figure out a way to teach it? Well, there's no degree in home automation. You can't just go be a college professor. So YouTube was the natural idea. And at the time it was just, well, let's just see what sticks and see what happens. And there was no real plan. I'll be honest, there was no real plan at the beginning. I had a couple of episodes planned and that was it. And it did slowly kind of take off, and it's been a great run. I mean, we're at what, 25,000 subscribers and several million views, and that's fantastic. It really is. So anyways, where it is today has just been complicated, and for me to attempt to run it myself has been a real challenge. So where we go, and the other part of this, because this is the message dedicated for Patreon. So now a lot of people are going to wonder, well, all right, if you're going offline for a while, then what are we doing? And this is hard for me to say, but I have to say it. I have to be very truthful and honest, and I feel this is really important. Smart Home Life is not going to be producing regular content for a while. I may, from time to time over the next couple months, because if I have a moment of clarity, if I have the moment free time that I can say, let me put together an article real quick. Let me put together a quick video on something that I think is interesting and maybe timely. I'll put something out. But otherwise, there may be just a time period that it's just, there's nothing going on for several months. So as someone who has supported me on Patreon, feel free to reduce and or remove your pledge. I hate to say it, because obviously it does reduce what's coming in to help the show and to help me and my own life. And a lot of you probably wonder what the money is going towards. The money from Patreon primarily goes because when you go into business, if you don't have a lot of money to get started, or if you don't want to spend all your cash, sometimes you have to put things on credit cards. So you're making the monthly payment on the official company credit card. Basically, that's what Patreon goes to at this point, to be really honest with you guys, and that's helpful. It's very helpful. It's not a huge payment. It's less than what's the total is on Patreon. So, anyways, I am being paid at this point by the Chinese company. It is now more than paying the bills for the first time in over 2 years, which is very helpful. And there are some other opportunities that will probably come about in 2018. So I wanted to kind of say all that stuff as we get started with this. So it did kind of result in, and there were several nervous breakdowns kind of over the past couple of months where I kept questioning myself. What are you doing? What's going on? Is this worth it to kind of keep killing yourself to produce content and also working yourself to death to try to work for this other company? And at some point you have to make a decision, and that's what happens. I also, and this is why this is private, this is not a public video, I do occasionally perhaps like many of us, or not many of us, but some of us, I do occasionally have bouts of small amounts of depression, which doesn't completely wipe my life out, but it does cause problems. I think a lot of creative people have these kind of peaks and valleys, and so when that's occurring, I'm not very creative. I don't want to be in front of the camera. There are times that I just don't want to make this stuff video wise. And so that's over the past couple of months, it's been much more convenient to do it via articles, which there is a certain amount of content that doesn't exist on the YouTube channel that does exist on the website. So if you don't go there, check it out. Let me go through my notes. I was a little bit more verbose. Doug L. Good for you, Joe. You've done a wonderful job, very professional. You can't help others if you don't help yourself first by staying healthy. Time to rest, recharge, and refocus. Thank you, Doug. And that is literally exactly it. It is. You can see one of the things I'm going to let me talk about this stuff in the beginning. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, you don't have to. I'm going to share with you guys, not with the public. I'll share with you guys because there was. You saw probably on Instagram. You saw it on Facebook. If you saw it, I actually shot a bunch of stuff for this holiday thing, including a new intro. I actually decided on a whim not to make a 3D intro or something like that was going to be very, very fancy, which I really was trying to do over the summer. It just got away from itself. I actually shot some new footage. I spent a lot of time doing some new stuff. So I'm going to share with you guys the 20% version of what was produced for the holiday gift guide. We made it, I think I made it all the way through smart speakers, and that was about it. And it just got to be 2 a.m. and I'm like, I have 10 more hours of work on this, and it's not going to happen. So I'm going to just hit render on that video and just let it go out and share it with you guys so you can see what was done. So that I'm not like, I'm not kidding, but you can see that there was something done there. Anyways, so but thank you, Doug. That is literally exactly right. And ever since I made the decision, which was a hard decision to make, to say, you know, I'm done for a while. And I was, for the first couple of days, I said, no, you have to publish something. You have to do something. You have to keep going. And I said, no. And as soon as I finally kind of released it, I started to feel much better. And I knew this was going to be difficult. I knew it was going to be difficult yesterday to create a video, which I have to edit today so I can put it out tomorrow. But the other thing, to be honest, and I never really anticipated this either, is my home, for the most part, because I really have never featured the bedroom because it's just my own space and it's not that great. This whole place has been on YouTube like the entire time I've been here. And I didn't realize that going into it, where I feel like, not that I have no privacy, but I thought, wow, like everyone knows what my place looks like. Like, what if I just want to live and not have like the crazy, you know, just all this stuff on YouTube? I mean, it's been great. And I think there's been a lot of great reaction to it. I have an opportunity. Most likely, this is the most likely plan for 2018, is I'm going to be moving to Portland, Oregon. I have a lot of friends up there. It was a tough decision between Seattle and Portland, but I think it's going to be Portland. Another friend of mine, Nikki Gordon Bloomfield, runs Transport Evolved, a website, and also a very popular YouTube channel dedicated to electric cars and all the new kind of electric and future car technology. She is working on getting a larger studio for herself, and that may become a co-working space for me as well, depending on where the show goes and how things are. I want to streamline the show so that it's a type of thing where I can go to a place, shoot video, go edit it, and move on, because it's a long setup process here. Every time I have to set up a new set or adjust, it's really, it just got away from itself. So that's a possibility up there. Or I may just get a hopefully a rental home, because I've been in 400 square feet for the longest time, and God, it's small. I joke that it's like playing Tetris every time you have to buy something or adjust something or take 2 hours to put everything back to fit in its place. But I would love smarter home life to be more of a something where I shoot it in a spare bedroom, and it can still feature a lot of nifty things, but it's just going to be much simpler. The information would be there. So that's the other thing, is getting back to my goal of just sharing my knowledge. And that's with how-to episodes. It's with all the stuff I've promised with custom programming and stuff like that. And it would be, most likely, it would be not timely. It would not be tied to special events and news and so forth, because that's where you start to get stressed out of, oh my goodness, I've got to do this and so forth. And I don't know, in 2018, let me go get this actually real quick. I don't know if I showed this off on the most recent one. I don't think I actually had the prototype. I don't have it plugged in either, but you can see it obviously on the videos. Let me grab something real quick for you guys. As you can see, I'm very casual today. It's Friday. So this is one of the few prototypes that does exist of the Linky Smart Home Hub. You can see, and this is a 3D printed case. So we had this. I had this. There was another one also that my contact Jerry brought from China for our trip out there. So it's a USB-C connector on the back. It's it's a nicely, I mean, people can complain about it. I finally saw the Echo Show in person the other day, and God, that thing is ugly. So this has at least a nice kind of sloped design, if I can actually do this correctly. But a little button on top for privacy. So a nice little device. This is what's taken up a good part of my time, but hey, it's smart home stuff. So that's kind of cool. And it does actually work. Like, it actually works. Like, the interface is beautiful and it's really nice. Let me share this with you. I didn't share this with the public. So one of the cool things in San Francisco, or in the Bay Area, was we had some meetings set up. I got to meet with Indiegogo. The Indiegogo project didn't work out as great as we wanted to. There's many reasons for that. Anyways, the product's good. It just, the execution wasn't 100%, and that kind of started months ago before I even got on board. But the cool thing was getting to sit down with the Google Assistant team at the Googleplex. That was actually one of the highlights of the trip to San Francisco and down to Mountain View. So we got to sit down with them. Got a little bit of pushback because we kind of came out of nowhere, and their process for adding Google Assistant to existing devices wasn't that great by their own admission. So we have to go through a number of steps and to make sure that we meet their requirements, which they don't even know what their requirements are at this point, because they're only working with a few vendors. And we, again, kind of came out of nowhere. They were working with existing companies to put the assistant on board. So anyways, the product's probably delayed by a few months to make sure things go right. But it was really, really cool to be part to see the Googleplex. I also, because I was staying with some people, one of which worked for Facebook, I got to tour the Facebook headquarters and multiple parts of that campus. All I can say is, all this stuff that you hear about these Silicon Valley companies that are just, it's ridiculous, it's opulent, it's overspending on all kinds of things and free food. It's all true. It's like, holy crap. If I still wanted to be part of like the development community, which that's a big part of what those companies do is development work, I would be like, hey, I'm gonna go work for Google or Facebook. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty amazing experience. So kind of my trip was a smart home trip too. So that was really, really awesome. Of course, it didn't help that I got sick during the trip to San Francisco, so it wasn't that relaxing, and I came back and it was like really, really stressed out. Let me go through my notes here and try to figure out things. Of course, it's the worst time of year to sort of have to stop, because again, so many people are just like, well, it's the holidays. We want your opinion. We want your advice and all that stuff. So it was really difficult to stop. And I also didn't want to put a piece of content out there, you know, as a kind of a final, not really final, but final for a while video without at least delivering something helpful. So the video that I recorded yesterday contains kind of a mini product review. It contains one final Q&A. So I put those toward the end, and I talked about that in the beginning. So there's a little bit more content that will go out tomorrow, and that will probably be the last video for a while. And there'll be a message that gets pinned to the top of all the social media accounts and everything else saying, well, thank you, but it's just going to be slowed down for a while. CES. Oh, so here's one of the other things, and this is where, again, like I stopped. This was a month or two ago. I have completely stopped accepting products for review from companies because I now work for a smart home company, so not completely fair to them. Are you open to discussing how you could leverage your momentum and fan base while getting off the product release carousel? Sure, if you have some ideas. And I've gotten, oddly enough, I've gotten some emails recently from some of these other YouTube networks and affiliate companies and blah, 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 saying we want you to join our network and so forth. Most of those are not really good, but I'm looking at some of those to where if they have the opportunity to optimize content or optimize certain things while the show is either on hiatus or producing very little content, and it helps to keep certain things going financially, it does help, because I would like to use, ideally, in my ideal sense is that the show's revenue that comes in helps to pay for whatever tech goes into the new place. And I'll go into also that in a minute, because I know I talked to you guys about when I do the move and kind of discussing going from one smart home to the other. That's still going to happen. It's just not going. It may not be in real time because I naturally document my life. But speaking of CES, so I will be. We've booked it. I'm going to be at CES. Actually, I'm going to be in Vegas for a week and a half. But I'm going to be at CES with Linky. There's going to be 3 people from China. We've got an Airbnb house. We'll be at Eureka Park. So this is all confirmed now. I didn't make it public because I just didn't. I'm focusing on the Linky side of things, but I'll be at CES. I'm not going to be there this year to cover it because I'm going to be representing them. So you may see, depending on how much press coverage we get, we're continuing to work with a great PR company. So I'm going to be on camera. Not that I'm a stranger to that, but I'm going to now be representing a company. So we're going to be working through press quotes and all those PR things to kind of do a little training for me and for the other person at the company who speaks relatively good English. So we've got a booth at Eureka Park. It's kind of under design process at this point. My first drop-in was last month. Who's this? Let me just make sure I'm reading the comments. Doug, oh, I got a lot of value out of the interactive Q&A. How about a regular super consulting session where paid subscribers could become could bounce ideas and problems? Yeah, that's a really good idea. In fact, these are great ideas for the Patreon thing and this interactive stuff. I forgot to completely mention it during the I'll probably put it somewhere in the video for tomorrow that'll come out. The consulting thing, whether it's like dedicated separate sessions that I've been doing with many people, or if we want to do something to where it's kind of a group chat type thing here on a monthly basis and put it at a certain level, I probably have to put it at least, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks a month. There's something to make it worth it, because you don't want to sort of sell the individual sessions as a certain amount and this as amount or whatever. But it's a great idea. We can figure it out. It doesn't have to make that much money, to be honest. But I would be totally happy with doing that. It's easier for me. The conversational videos are easier for me. To give you an example of when I put it out there to show you guys the holiday video thing, and it'll just show up as I'll put it out as a link in the Patreon feed, and it'll be an unlisted video. to produce that amount of content was like hours of work. It was even to put out the little mini statements at the beginning and the end of it was like hours just to get that stuff done. Because I'm sort of a perfectionist, and speaking to camera when you have to get something absolutely right with the right tone is just challenging. But this conversational stuff in the Q&A, I love doing this stuff. I just did another session. Wasn't Monday, it was last week. And that, God, the past couple weeks have gone by so fast. Or was it Monday? I don't even remember. It was Monday, actually. I did a consulting session with someone who found Smarter Home Life just this past Monday. I've got another one set up for Monday. So they continue to, the individual sessions continue to come in, and I really love that stuff. So Doug, great idea. I will kind of put a note to myself to develop this over the next month or so we can kind of keep this communication and conversation going. I think that's a great idea, to be honest. And if it's a good group, if we can pick a time, I'll probably I tried to put a poll out there a couple weeks ago, like what days and times are best for everybody. Because again, it's tough when you've got people across the globe or across, time zones, and I'm here in Phoenix, but we can get that figured out. So look for me at CES if we do get some good coverage. Look for me to be representing a company. So my hope is to escape the booth a little bit during the show. To go see what's new. I can't guarantee I'm going to put out a big produced video about what's going on to the public. What I might be able to do is do a session with you guys. There's no way for me to do, there might be a way for me to do it. Yeah, but the problem is I'm not media. I'm not registered at media at CES. So the most I can do is like take short videos and do cameras. If we start doing live stuff at CES, the like security goes after you. So what I'll probably be able to do is take a bunch of clips of just interesting things that I find there, if I'm able to roam about the show a little bit, and then come back and do like a live session with you guys and say, hey, here's what's new and cool stuff. And maybe that's what happens during the kind of the public period of the show kind of going on hiatus, is that Patreon continues, and that's how it goes. Let's see. So the things I talked about, and I mentioned them in the show, and I can't show them to you because they're installed. I did finally get around to taking a look at some of the stuff from Sylvania. They're what used to be called Lightify, and now it's called Smart Plus. It's a Zigbee-based lighting system. They're kind of in third place from Philips and Lifex. Who's this? Doug L. Can individuals access the CES floor exhibits without being in the trades? 20 years. They've made it a lot more difficult. So this is what the deal is. They now, because I got into CES in the early 2000s by just making up a business card and a name and just saying, hey, it's .com consulting or whatever. And they don't even care at that point. Now they've made it way more difficult. You have to prove, you can register as a regular attendee, but you have to do something within the registration process. You have to submit proof that you're somehow part of the tech industry. You don't have to go as media. If you go as media, they have a ton of requirements. That was part of the reason to try to grow. Wasn't the reason, but it was the reason for the launch of the website was to get it big enough to where it's worth it in terms of for CES. Their requirements for media, for YouTubers, 1 million subscribers or more. 10,000, which is actually pretty low, I thought, but 10,000 unique visits per month to a website, which sounds like a reasonable number. And sometimes the traffic does go up on smarterhomelife.com, but it just, even with the good quality content there, I just haven't been able to crack it. And that's weird for someone who used to develop websites for a living. And again, it just could have been the fact that I feel that Google understands Smarter Home Life's popularity and that it's more popular on YouTube. So it generally sends everyone there and it doesn't send everyone to the website. But anyways, it is individuals, back to you, Doug. It's a challenge for people not associated with the consumer electronics industry to get into CES, even as an attendee where you have to pay like $100. They've just made it difficult because it's huge. I mean, it is, you said you haven't been there for 20 years. It is the entire convention center, and the convention center has expanded, I think, in the past 20 years. It's the entire Sands. It's the entire what used to be the Hilton, which is connected, to the convention center. There's suites at the Aria. There's suites at the Venetian. There's suites at. It's so big, it's ridiculous. There's shuttles that go around the whole city. It's nuts. It really is nuts. I was there for just a few days last year and barely got to just kind of jump through everything that was of interest, to me. This year, I'm going to be mostly confined to the booth, I think. But I hope also the gal who has I've kind of made friends with over the past year, who I knew as a podcaster, Allison Sheridan, who's been on. I've been on her show. She's been on my show. She's kind of famously my Alexa buddy, who I call on the on the Echo. I'm hoping to finally get to meet up with her for more than 30 seconds this year, because I've only met her in person once, and she's really awesome. So that's going to be a fun thing for CES too. Let's see. I took a tangent on the CES thing. So the back to the Sylvania thing. Their products are good. They're in third place. Their app is really not that great. But they have these little stakeable lights called garden spots that I think are the best thing that they make. And it's a string that you can extend, kind of much like you do with traditional like Christmas lights. They're color changing. The whole string changes color at once. So it's not like the Life XZ where there's zones. And they have like a little diffuser so you can see the light, and then there's a lens that actually turns the LED into a spotlight as well. And I mentioned it in the video, like for the holidays, decorating outside, it's totally outdoor rated. You just stake these things into the ground, aim them, fire up the app, schedule it, maybe change the colors or do some kind of effect. They don't have that many effects in the app. They could do a lot more with the app. Instant decorating. I mean, it really is, I think, their best product. And otherwise, so I put that in there as well. And then there was a Q&A that came in from Costa Rica about Smart Home Hub stuff, which comes up on a regular basis, but I thought it was a good explanation. And then the public video ends with me talking about net neutrality, which does affect the IoT. If the evil company or the evil government and the companies get their way, then they could potentially say, oh, you have all these cloud devices, well, you're going to have to pay an extra price to make sure those things can, connect without issue. Another comment from Doug. Interested in the garden lights, but was under the impression they weren't very durable. I don't know about durability. It hasn't rained here yet. This is winter here. It's not summer, so I don't know. I haven't looked at the reviews specifically about durability. Obviously, well, we probably just found out recently because I only put them in like a week and a half ago. Hopefully when the people mowed the grass, they didn't mow them over. So maybe there'll be some broken lights tonight. I don't know. Anyways, that's a good question. I was like, are they back? No, the landscapers were here earlier, but I'll go check them in a few minutes. To me, they seemed solid. I mean, obviously, pets and mowers and things like that might chop them up, but I think that would be any product that's plastic. I'll let you know. I mean, we'll see. It's like I said, it's winter here, so it's not the summer. I don't know how they stand up to 120-degree heat and lots of sunlight, but we'll see what happens. I think they are an interesting product, and at this point I'm kind of categorizing companies by what unique thing do you bring to the table, because there's a million smart light bulbs out there, right? And who does it best? Philips and LifeX. Let's just, the hands down, those are the two best companies. And I still, to this day, like rarely, if ever, have issues with Hue, and I still have random little bugs with LifeX, just weird stuff. But that's just, I think, the nature of the amount of money that they have to get the best engineers, and it's Zigbee, it's not Wi-Fi. LifeX is very good, but still it's a little bit glitchy, where Philips Hue is it just works. It's like Apple, it just works. So that's kind of all I have on my list. So I think the last thing I mentioned is maybe I already mentioned this, but you just get into this mode of And we've never been here in history, I don't think, because journalism used to just be, decades ago before the internet and computing took over. It was very much, paper publishing, right? It was very much very scheduled. Journalists published on a daily or a weekly basis. Books were created by authors, but everyone can be a publisher now, or a YouTuber or an Instagrammer, and I never set the limits initially when I started the ramp up with Smarter Home Life, and when I started being contacted by companies to say that said, here, have some products and review it. And it just kept snowballing. And I tried as much as I could to kind of make this more reasonable and more manageable. But then when I took the brave step, not that I assumed that Smarter Home Life would really ever, in the first couple of years, automatically just start paying the bills. I mean, that was something that I was shooting for, and I had to kind of quit other jobs to focus on it for enough time to really make it something special. Because I feel that sometimes you can't always build something truly fantastic if you're doing it part-time, especially in its early stages. I feel like sometimes you have to just say, you know what, I'm all in. And I did that several times during its life, and I think it was worth it. You can definitely see by videos such as the tiny tour of this place that came out really well, and it was only possible because I had quit everything else and I had time to just focus on this. So it's that push to publish. You see a lot of other YouTubers who kind of give up and quit, and some come back and some don't. But that was the other reason why I really wanted to craft the message for the public and also for you guys, that it's like, I'm not quitting. We're going on hiatus. I really, Doug, I really like your idea of engaging with you guys and keeping that going. Obviously, it helps, if you guys feel that you're still getting something, it makes sense that you'll still be engaged and you'll decide to continue contributing. Lastly, is just a big thank you to everyone. I know we've only got 2 live viewers right now, but for anyone who's watching the video, and I'm hoping that everyone who sees the update through the Patreon goes ahead and decides to watch the video instead of just saying, well, that's it. The support, the kind words, and for you guys sticking with me. I know many of you, Michael D has been donating for quite a while, and you've been at the top end of the spectrum. Several of you have been contributing for 2 years plus, and I've never run something. I've run several businesses in my time, which consist of like customers paying invoices, but this was my first time running something saying, hey, will you help me out with a couple of bucks a month to make this better, to make this more grandiose? And sure, I had a lot of great goals for this. Like, I mean, it was like you try to follow in the footsteps of some of the great people who are doing really well, and sometimes it just doesn't resonate, but that's okay. And my personality is different from someone like a Tom Merritt or many of the other people who are out there who have got just the massive followings. But by my own admission, I have not been a media person for the decades that some of these people who, when they took their ideas and they moved to Patreon, or they took an existing channel or something that was super popular and then they moved it to Patreon versus, say, advertising, they had that huge built-in audience. They had that huge built-in following that just said, hey, we're going to do whatever you want us to do because we love your stuff. Let's see. Have a large enough user base now to secure regular Q&A would be helpful. Yep. Interaction with other users, your input, and maybe a guest now and again. 15 minutes to answer some past questions. Yeah. I think it's true. And I think that could be something, Doug, that I can explore, and we can make it part of the, maybe that's something that would be applicable to more people, in terms of there might be a lot of people who like the idea of having a custom session, but they can't afford it, or they would rather have be part of a kind of a group Q&A chat, and that could be something that's a Patreon only feature. It's kind of advertised through the public YouTube channel, and it kind of keeps things going and keep keeps people feeling like they're part of the process. Speaking of the process, so I had mentioned this was months ago, and I want to mention it here. Oh, it's Starbucks. Free breakfast is in my future. All right. Not going to turn that down. Anyways, I'm sure it's something. Buy 100 stars worth of coffee, and then we'll give you a $5, croissant for free. There's another one. What's that? Oh, I got a delivery. So anyways, I'll be ending this soon. Anyhow, the process of going from one place to another, most likely, again, it's probably Portland, Oregon. Totally different, landscape and everything from Phoenix. I naturally document everything in my life that I'm doing. So, and I was doing that, before this place during, the transition to this place, and I'm naturally going to be doing it, whether it's in a real-time format or not. I don't know. I will probably just naturally share some things of what's going on here on the Patreon feed and to everyone, or to most everyone, so that people know what's going on. But I'll be able to use that footage and use that information and use all and writing down those thought processes, or making videos of myself talking to the camera, so I don't forget what I was thinking, of taking all this stuff apart, moving to the new place, making decisions on the new place, which my thought process is that it would be smart, it would be cool. Once the stress of moving and picking a place and dealing with all that stuff, because the moving part, like, to me, is not stressful. It's like, all right, once it's decided, it's like, move it, you're done. It would be really nifty for the show to come back at that point and to say, welcome to the new place. And you too can be part of the decision-making process for what goes into the new place. Because as I always have mentioned, I try to live without home automation for sometimes almost 2 months in a new place to figure out the pain points and what I want to automate and so forth. And it's quite possible that, because a lot of what I do is in terms of this place with all the custom code and all the Insteon and Indigo stuff, while that's great, it's not entirely applicable to the mass audience, because the mass audience is not going to write Python code. They're not going to do all this stuff with custom technologies. They want the light bulbs that screw in. They want the wireless sensors. They want the smart things and the Wink and blah, blah, blah. So it's very possible that for the new place, I may have to kind of step down and become a regular consumer and create something that works for me, and it's kind of cool, but that I can really demo to show, all right, this is for the 99%, right? Because that's who's watching the videos, that's who's absorbing the content, along with still being able to talk the tech stuff with the smaller part of the audience and inspire some of the smaller part of the audience who may want to jump in a little bit deeper. But I'm thinking, again, as I start being away from this, even just for 2 weeks now, that's where the show may need to go. It may need to kind of take 2 tracks. They're still manageable. One that's really applicable to everybody, and the other part that's applicable to the more tech focused people. And that may include also trying new things. A lot of people have talked to me and they said, you need to get off of Indigo. You need to go with Home Assistant. You need to go with these other platforms. And so far, it really hasn't been possible. It's hard to run your own smart home when you're running on multiple platforms. It's kind of a mess sometimes. And so when I try to have some sense of sanity here, I'm like, I just need stuff to work. I can't always be in demo mode. So maybe splitting things up and starting new with the next place is a good idea. And to get everyone to help to do that, that would be awesome. And depending on how things work out with what I'm doing in terms of career-wise, and if this Linky company is really, if they're doing really well in 2018, then maybe I'm doing really well. So a lot of things are up in the air right now. I'm going to know more in probably by the end of January is my guess, that I'm going to know a lot more on timing and so forth. But at this point, we've been going for about 45 minutes. So I think everyone's probably not, everyone is kind of bored at this point. My last thing, again, I mentioned it on the public video that'll go out tomorrow. net neutrality, at least if you're here in the US, please contact your representatives. Please contact Ajit Pai. Please contact the FCC. I know he's not listening. They're not listening. It's going to come down to the courts. Probably it's going to probably come down to Congress. Net neutrality, or the open internet of having a pipe that you can use for whatever you like and not being charged for little bits and pieces of like, oh, you want a smart home. That's fine. We're going to charge you an extra $10 for that. You want to access Netflix. It's an extra $10 for that. You want to access the regular websites and not Facebook and Twitter. We're going to charge you an extra $20 for that. Net neutrality is really the way to go. The providers don't like it, but of course, hey, I used to work for an internet provider back in the day. Of course, they have to provide the pipe, right? And they would rather charge you more for that pipe, and they would rather charge more money specifically to companies that put out a ton of bandwidth, like the Netflix and Hulu and all the other big streaming companies, because they want to make more money for the giant amount of continual investment and upgrades of service and equipment and fiber and all that other stuff that they have to keep providing. So it's possible that the FCC may vote it down, and they may vote for they're going to nix all the rules, and then everyone's going to get even more upset, and then it's going to wind up in the courts, or it's going to wind up in Congress. My feeling is that the citizenry, because of something that happened about a year ago in the US, is starting to finally wake up and get more involved. And we're going to see how that does at the end of next year with the next election cycle. So I'm not going to, I don't want to make this into a political thing at all. So I think that's about it. Any more? I know Michael D is you had said good morning. I didn't hear anything back from you. If you want to make any more comments or say anything in the chat before we're going to end this. Thank you again to everyone, for real. It's going to be a little bit slow in terms of content coming out, or me doing some things with you guys, specifically with Patreon, during the time that I'll be away. And there'll be some messages out there, again, the video tomorrow, and there'll be a message on the website and so forth. We're just going to take it one step at a time and try to bring this thing back better than ever, but more manageable than ever. And so I think that's it. I guess I will wrap up and say happy holidays. And I will put out a link in the next day or two. I gotta hit render on it, and you guys can see what was planned for the holiday gift guide. With some cool imagery, and did some slider shots, and you can see that there is actually, the place is decorated. You'll see some of that in tomorrow's video, and some of that in the other one. And Michael D, ditto on everything Doug said. Perfect. That's great. So I think that's definitely the way to go. This is what I haven't always had over the past couple of years, is kind of this really great feedback mechanism with the kind of the smaller, more tuned in audience. I know you guys have provided some good feedback, but some of this is actually even like really, really great. So thank you for these ideas, because sometimes it's really important for me to kind of get out of my head. And because I generally do this show by myself, I don't always get the opportunity to do that. And even my friends who I talk to, they don't always come up with ideas either. So thank you so much, and happy holidays, and to everybody, and a great new year. And I look forward to CES in 2018 and changes and all kinds of stuff. So I'll say bye for now, and we'll definitely be in contact and in communication over the next weeks and months. All right. Take care, everybody.